we are a niche. And I just want to tell you some of who we are, what we do, where we are. Let's see. So Vernon, Utah, here's a map. As you can see, Utah Lake, and we're out west. And so it's about an hour drive west of Spanish Fork, or you can come down through Tooele. And I know some people think I didn't know there was anything out there, and you may be half right. I don't know. I just wanted to say a little background about me. I grew up on a small farm in Oregon, and I worked as a soil scientist, went to Utah State and got trained in soil science like Melanie. And then we moved back to Utah while ranching. I worked as a technical writer. About 2 or 3 years ago, this production company came out to the ranch and made a commercial. It was actually a mini series. If we have time, I'd like to show it, but they fit a whole mini series into 2.5 minutes for a commercial. And the guy that was playing, I met at lunch, told me he was playing the rancher, and he's actually the fellow on the left. And so, and anyway, he commented, well, then I'm playing you. So you can imagine, if you want, if you'd rather imagine me looking like the guy on the left, that's fine with me, because he's quite handsome. So there we are. Here's my wife, Elizabeth, and she's the kind of the heart of the ranch. It's her family's ranch, and it dated back to pioneer times, 5 Bennions. So this is John Bennion, Israel Bennion, Glenn Bennion, her father, Colin Bennion, and there's a picture of her on the 4-wheeler, probably about a March picture. She has a background in elementary education. We have 5 children. We have other experience besides the beef raising. We raise chickens, some lambs. I've had beehives in the past. I want to get started again this year if I can find some. We planted an orchard and we've had a hoop house garden. We used to attend this annual meeting actually to learn more about the hoop house. So that hasn't been, we live 6 miles off the pavement. This is a picture of the Sheeprock Mountains, kind of at the base of the Sheeprock Mountains, which means we live actually 6 miles from Vernon. Our nearest neighbor is, well, it used to be 5 miles away, but now we have one about 1.5 miles away. Just briefly, the business model of a cow-calf operation, and this is our size, we'd have a herd of 30 mama cows and 6 bulls, and we calve in March and April. We turn the mamas and the calves out onto pastures from May to October. And at the same time on our home ranch, we're making hay. We turn them out. We have a Forest Service grazing permit that's right adjacent to the ranch. So that's one advantage we have. And then the model is generally to sell calves at weaning in October to buyers, and then feed the hay that we've grown to the cows from December to March and start all over. So here's some pictures describing that. Here's some calves probably in late March, and while we're still feeding some cows, and that's what they look like. On May 1st, we'll put them out, and here's a pasture that will put them out. This is the 1st of May. And as Wes was speaking about dyes, I thought about my little clump of Indian paintbrush right here and thinking, man, we ought to use that in a dye for something. It's like the only non-green color. Whoops, back up here a little bit. So, and then in the summer, we'll be growing hay on irrigated fields around the center, around our house, the center part of the ranch. And then this is what the calves look like at weaning. They're usually around 500 pounds. And we bring them back in the pastures. We've done it both ways, where we wean them and ship them the same way, or we've kept them for 6 weeks and fatten them a little on the pastures. And that's what we're doing here. Okay, what we are not is, or what we used to do is sell to a large feedlot. And so this is just a stock picture of a large feedlot. So we don't do any of that, but what we started doing was direct to consumer model. So we'd keep these calves, or at least a proportion of them, and we would to sell to consumers. Like a year later, we need at least a year to fatten them. And so we'd background them in the pastures, and by that we avoid the feedlot and we avoid the retailer. We work with small custom butcher shops that are USDA inspected, and they will hang the beef or age the beef for a couple of weeks to make it more tender. And when we started doing this about 10 years ago, we decided to get consistent quality, we would add Japanese cattle genetics. And the way we've done that is we've kept all of our mama cows as Black Angus, and we've added some 100% Wagyu Japanese cattle. And that's how, so we get what's called an F1 cross, and that qualifies 50% Wagyu, 50% Angus. And that qualifies as American Wagyu. And we also use management practice, no hormones, no antibiotics. And we've been trying some regenerative agriculture principles. Okay, this is just a picture of the Wagyu breed. It looks a little different than the classic Angus or other English or continental breeds, in that you'll see around the shoulder it's quite deep, and then in the hind end it's a lot lighter than an Angus would be. Okay, here's some of the stuff we've tried, some rotational grazing on the irrigated fields. These again are what we call our stalkers. You know, they're not in the stockyard, but the ones we're fattening. And here they are eating a pasture of mixed seed. This shows on the right, on the left is mixing the seed right in the grain drill. So we've had a couple of seeds here and some grain, and then we've added, in this case, I think it was 3 kinds of clovers plus radish and turnip and a couple other things. So on the right, this is a few months later, you'd get something that looks like this, and you can see the clover seed and some of the grain seed, and then some other leaves. I think that's the turnip. And so it's like a salad bar for the animals. They're eating different varieties. This is what it looks like, backing up a little bit. The yellow blossom is yellow sweet clover. And then I think the radish is the white blossom. And then you can see some different grain coming up about heading, and there's also some grass in there too. And then this is one of our Wagyu cross bulls that are steers, heifers. This is a heifer actually that we're fattening. This one's not quite ready, but getting close to slaughter. Again, the thickness in the shoulders and then a little lighter in the rump. So what we're trying for is some highly marbled beef. This is a chuck steak, I believe. And you can see the white flecks throughout. We use local butchers. The two we use mostly are Springville Meat in Springville, Utah, and Ashton Meats down in Fillmore, Utah. And they'll, like I said, they'll both hang it for at least 2 weeks to age the meat, and then they do a pretty good job. So if you were to get in this business, yeah, the butcher is definitely a big consideration. And business-wise, I think it's maybe not too good to have just one butcher, because things can happen anyway. So, and this is just a stock photo I grabbed of hanging some meat. But that's what it looks like, and they hang it usually at just above freezing for 2 or 3 weeks. The nice thing about working with the local butchers too is we can get custom cuts. So this is an 1.25 inch steak that we've ordered, and we can get steaks any thickness, and it ends up there's a lot of options we can go with. And this is just some of the options and ways to go and the different cuts on the animal. So, and it is a challenge working with butchers, partly because I've never worked in a butcher shop and I've had, an idea of what comes from where, but they're always adjusting what I want versus what I can have, things like that. We actually live off grid, about 6 miles from electricity, and so in town I have a building, and we've housed some freezers in there to keep track of our excess beef and the beef before we market it. These are just a few cuts. I wanted to show this one. This is a picture of short ribs that are maybe more traditional, and you see there's 4 bones that go along that short ribs. This is a great cut for smoking or even putting in the oven for 3 hours or something like that. But one thing we found with the Wagyu is that if you cut that perpendicular, you still have these 4 bones. These are cut 1 centimeter thick. And so you can see there are a lot of fat, and then there's a little lean. And what the Koreans have figured out, made famous, is these Kalbi short ribs. And so you marinate these in a Korean marinade, and then you can grill them directly on the grill. And you lose some of the fat. They're still a very fatty piece, but in the marinade and with a little char grilling, there'll be a sweet, fruity, hearty piece. And the Wagyu is really good for this, we found, because of the tenderness. Another picture of I think this is a shank, but again, showing some of the marbling here. And one of the other advantages I try to get people to do is use this cut called osobuco from the shank. And the Mexicans have this wonderful soup they make from this, and where they'll boil a tomato and carrot and potato and half a cob of corn, and boil this for a couple hours. And anyway, it's a great soup, caldo del rey, race, broth of the beef, I guess. We also have some processed into jerky from the Wagyu. And this is done through one of our butchers. I don't do it myself. Here's an example of a chuck roast. And again, you may never see a chuck roast this marbled or taste so good. And then after, I'm assuming everyone knows a pot roast, but actually maybe younger generation doesn't know a pot roast. So Melanie knows a pot roast. Yes, yeah, she does. So it'll end up looking something like this with the very tender meat and cooked stuff. So I call this recipe Mom's pot roast because that's what I had for dinner every Sunday when I was growing up. But it wasn't as good because Mom didn't have Wagyu. Okay, I want to talk a little about marketing. I better speed up or we'll be done. But marketing's been a real challenge for me because you're not just, I mean, I could sell jerky all day long, but you're trying to find this person that'll buy a bulk beef that's willing to, spend $1,000, $2,000 or something. And so we use email lists, Facebook groups, radio ads. I've tried. I used to do farmers markets. I'll still do an occasional show. Do we need more social media marketing? Probably. We're going to try to be hitting up some more Instagram this year, showing off the ranch a little more. So if anybody just has the secret to marketing bulk beef, I'd love to know without paying thousands of dollars like people keep trying to sell me. But anyway, do I like selling directly to public? I do. And my wife wonders if I spend too much time taking orders, talking through the custom butchering, explaining the price per pound hanging weight plus processing, which is how we charge. But I consider that every minute I spend with my customers, I'm building this relationship. So if I'm going through a cutting instruction sheet and telling them what they can get and the trade-offs, I feel that's time well spent. So I like doing that. I'm always in search of more customers. So here's a little commercial. Here's our latest website that's just come up. And with a slightly new logo. Again, that is a picture of our beef, but it's simply BennionBeef.com. So all you people out there, tell your friends, tell your family, and they're looking for bulk beef. We do sell smaller quantities too. Conservation work. We've literally done every bit of our 2,000 acres in some kind of conservation project over the last 25 years. We started really in earnest about 2007. This is a picture of beaver dam analogs along Vernon Creek. And they're set up to control erosion and to slow down stream flow. And they try to mimic what a beaver would do if the beaver was here. So last year we won for the state of Utah, the Aldo Leopold Conservation Award, which is a real award, and because I've learned an award without cash isn't a real award, it's just a certificate, but they did give us a cash prize with that. So one thing I'd recommend, if you own land like us, sign up for all the programs and grants that you can, because it's money well spent. It's a little time, but it really helps to improve your resource. Another thing helpful to us, sign up for drought insurance. And here I just told you we won the Aldo Leopold Conservation Award. And last year, this is after we won the award, we had the biggest grant yet, and it was 187,000 for water development, pipelines, troughs, from a stream, and it was through the Natural Resources Conservation Service EQIP program. Future of agriculture for small and medium ranches. I think they can survive if it's a partnership. I think one person doing it alone would be very difficult. But I think if there's a couple of people working on it, and that in our case, that's me and my wife. But I think survivor partnership's a lot better way to go. One of the biggest challenges we've had where we live is shipping, simply because we don't live close to a shipping center. And so we have to travel to get things shipped even. And we're up against a catch-22. Well, if we had 20 boxes to ship, it would be worth traveling, 42 miles to ship them. But you can't do that till you get enough boxes. Who wants to do it? Okay, I have a list here of my 5 children and their occupations. One's a PhD chemist who works for Intel Corporation. Another's an educator that she's on hold right now. She's raising her 4 children up there in Cache Valley, and runs a big garden. And her husband's an airplane pilot, so he's gone half the time. So it's a full-time job. Another one is a coder, a programmer. He actually has a bachelor's and a master in cello performance, but he switched careers for money, and now he has a master's in computer science. Another is a robotic engineer, and he's doing quite well. And my youngest is a computer scientist, and he just graduated with his PhD last year, and also works for Intel Corporation. So who wants to do the ranch? Well, none of them, actually. I mean, and partly because it's who they married, I think. But if you don't marry somebody that's used to the rural, it's kind of hard. And there we are. So, funny, I'll open it up for questions, or you can.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Alan, for presenting about your ranch and operation. Maggie, would you like to take over the questions? And anyone else who has questions, we've got plenty of time to add those in. And if we end up having a few extra minutes, maybe we could show that video that you mentioned, Alan.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll start with these first questions while he finds it.
Yeah. We got a few questions here for you. Some pretty good ones. So how many stock dogs do you have helping with your operation, and what breed are they?
Border Collie, we usually only own one at a time, and our last one just ran away. We don't do a lot of herding. I mean, my wife can herd with one dog and a 4-wheeler. I claim as good as 3 horsemen, partly because the cattle know where they're going, and the dog is very useful getting them moving. They're not always useful turning them or doing anything else, but if you go out alone to move our herd, it takes a few minutes to get them going, whereas a dog will get their attention right away.
Perfect. Thanks. And then the second question, do you sell your calves to local small farmers for them to raise on their own farms?
Yes, we've done that in the past. We're not, that really isn't our business, but we will sell some of those Wagyu Angus cross. About every year we sell a handful.
Well, wonderful. Thank you. That's all. Oh, looks like we've got another question popping in here.
Cool, great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Keep going. Sorry, yeah. Have you found that direct to consumer is better than selling to a bulk calf buyer?
Well, yes, by doing that, we've eliminated, you know, a backgrounder. And anyway, we've kept more of the beef dollar from the consumer. And we think we're very reasonable in our prices. We sell, I guess I should have pointed this out, only about half of our calves are Angus, are Wagyu. The others are Angus, so we have 3 Wagyu bulls and 3 Angus bulls, and we separate herds during the grazing season. But because of the Wagyu, we charge a little more. It costs a little more to produce, but it essentially doubles your gross income.
Oh, we got another one quick. Do you ever breed your crossed animals, or are parents purebred?
We've never intentionally bred our cross animals. However, we have had some bull escapes and where they've got in with them, and we've had some Wagyu crosses bred to pure Wagyu bulls, which is a 3/4 Wagyu. And we really try to avoid that. But we have had that happen in the past. And we try to sell those for a bigger premium, but anyway, not intentional.
Well, thanks. So we have a couple minutes left. I'm not sure. Do you think we could show, it looks like you've got it keyed up, the YouTube video. We could probably show at least part of it before we hit our next speaker here in a minute. Oh, rated R. All right.
Yeah, no calories were harmed in the making of this film.
You might be an hour away from your back day. It'll be up to you. Look out for your ass and the safety of your county. Here. This is Magnum country. Hear about that dead guy Charlie found at his place? Nothing I want to be involved in.
All of the indoor pictures are not our ranch, but most of the outdoor pictures are.
How did they pick your ranch, Ellen?
And where's the
This
money?
is.
Man, I can trust you.
Okay, well, it is 10 o'clock, so at least we got, oh, wow, at least we got to see a little bit of the ranch through this, this film. Could you drop the link in the chat?